Hello and welcome to another edition of Meet the Red Cross. I'm Dave Griffith, the Executive Director of the Heart of Missouri chapter, and once again I have two guests with me on the show today. Carlos Graham is one of our board of directors, one of our newer board of directors, and probably a familiar face to many of you here in Jefferson City, and especially on the Lincoln University campus. And I'm glad to have Carlos joining me. Also joining me is Gina Joly, and Gina is an account rep with our Public Health and Safety and Preparedness group, and she's based out of St. Louis, out of our regional office. September is Preparedness Month, and we want to visit with her about that. So, Carlos, glad to have you with us today.
Dave, thank you for having me on your show today.
All right, glad to have you as our board of directors. You bring a unique perspective to us, and in this show I like to try and get a lot of our audience to know who you are more than just the face that they see. And we see you in the news and on TV quite a bit, but just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm originally from Florence, Alabama. I was born and raised there. I left Alabama, excuse me because I'm sort of hoarse because I'm going through some sinus problems today. But I left Alabama and went to Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, where I received my undergraduate degree in sociology. After that, I moved back to Alabama for a short period of time because I was a single parent. And then I got a phone call from Lincoln University saying, hey, there's a position that's open here, would you like to apply for it? And I had a fraternity brother that worked here, and he was the director of financial aid, and then the vice president for student affairs was also a fraternity brother of mine too. And so I took the opportunity up and sent the application back in. They called me for an interview, and the rest has been history, and that's been going to my 16th year at the university, and I love it, love every minute of it.
Well, I thought you might be hoarse from yelling at the Blue Tiger game this past Saturday.
Yeah, that too, and the Mizzou game and the Alabama game as well too. So.
Yeah. Well, I know that you're very big on campus, and,
Yes.
and you might tell us a little bit about what your job is here on the Lincoln University campus.
I serve as the director of housing here on the campus, in which some people think, does that mean you just assign people to rooms? No, it's a lot more than that. It's just myself and my administrative assistant. And we house over 900 students on campus. And every day is a different day for me in my office. There's no set date and time in which, a student is going to come in. They can come in the spur of the moment because I do keep an open door policy. But like I said, I've been doing that. I've been in housing for all 16 years. I love what I do, and I just like working with our young people and seeing them be successful and continue on into the society and be a successful product in the society. So,
Well, that's a good segue into my next question that I've got for you, because you've got a unique Red Cross story that really involves those students.
Yeah, I really do. And each year I reflect back on this date, which was just a week ago from yesterday, on September the 4th of 2006. I remember that day vividly because I was at home preparing to come to campus for an LU football game. And I received a phone call from one of my directors and said, hey, Mr. Graham, we got a fire on campus. I said, well, hey, did you contact the fire department? Yes, but it's a fire in Dawson. I'm like, okay. And then I got another phone call from LUPD and said, hey, Mr. Graham, you better get to campus. There's a fire in Dawson Hall. I said, well, Dawson Hall is brick. And as I leave from my home, coming to campus, I'm coming down Route C. I get ready to get onto the highway, and of course Dawson Hall, which is our 10-story building, up in the air, you see nothing but black smoke. And my heart just dropped at that point, and I'm like, oh my God. First of all, making sure, hoping that everybody got out the building, because we do procedures all the time to make sure that the students exit the building whenever a fire alarm goes off and things like that. Got on campus, it was all type of fire trucks. It was just, everybody was running around, students were crying, worried about their belongings and make sure everybody was out the building. My thing was to make sure everybody was out the building. I said, hey, those things are materialistic, we can replace those things, but a life you cannot. And so once we got the fire departments clear for the team to come in and take a look and see what's going on, the fire started on the 6th floor. And as you know, fire smoke goes up. And when the fire department comes in, they're not concerned about, what room we're going to, spray. We're going to spray everything to put the fire out. And of course, water ran down. So we have a building that housed 323 students. At the time, I think we had 300 students assigned to that building. And we was just like, what are we going to do now? Ken Ferguson, who was the director at the time, we was going through a small situation to our administrative assistant had retired, so it was just him and I. And so he was like, well, we got to take care of this. And so we was worried about where we're going to put these students. You know, that was a big concern. You know, what are we going to do now? How are we going to feed them? We're getting phone calls from parents because, you know, the social media went out, you know, fire on campus. And parents are calling concerned about their son or daughter. And we were making contacts with university relations to put stuff out. It got, and I'm still real sensitive about this, it got to a point that we was like, you know, what are we going to do? The next thing I know, someone from the American Red Cross showed up and was like, you know, can we help? Do you need some help? Yes, we can help, but at the time, I'm thinking, well, nobody, you know, needs to give blood or receive blood. It isn't like that, you know, not really thinking that that Red Cross is more than just blood services. And so when they got on campus, you know, it's there, you know, where can we set up at? I said, well, we've got a lot of students. They said, you know, what is your biggest building? And so we said Jason Gymnasium. Went down to Jason Gymnasium, and maybe like hours had passed. They had cots set up. They had the blankets. They had water. They had food. They had toiletries. They had everything that a student could really possibly need during this time of period in their lives. And I do think that was able to give them a sense of, you know, of someone who's caring for them right now, while the administrators took care of how we're going to, you know, make sure that everything is what it should be. So, and from that point, the American Red Cross has really meant a lot to me, especially the Heart of Missouri chapter here in Jefferson City. So, and I've been a champion ever since that day. Even when I give to United Way, because I do serve on the committee here at Lincoln University as a committee person, I always say direct mine directly to Red Cross, and certainly I do give to Red Cross financially and my time too. So.
Okay. Well, you know, this is being September is Preparedness Month,
yes.
and really being prepared is something that obviously the Red Cross does every day. Since that fire has happened, what steps have you all taken here at Lincoln University to make yourselves more prepared?
We talk to the students, and blast emails go out to the students. We do fire drills. We do go over safety things, and on the back of each door now, there is a plan of exit the building, what to do in case of an active shooter, what to do in case of a tornado, what case to do of a fire and things like that. And that was something that came out of that fire emergency procedure of what to do. So, and Chief Nelson, who's our chief of police, we do have something in place that we're always doing something that's going to alert the students. I did have to put into place a fine for the students that did not exit the building, or for someone who took, I say, freely of the smoke detectors that's in the room, and that certainly curtails some of the issues that we was having too. So, yeah.
Well, I know that because of your passion for what the American Red Cross does, and in conversations that I've had with you over the past few years, when I was looking for some, I hate to use the word new blood, but for some new people to join the board of directors, and somebody who really had a passion for it. Carlos, you're one of the first people that I called and reached out to, and
Thank you.
I appreciate the response that you had. Tell me about your experience of being on the board of directors and what you see that as doing.
It's really been an eye-opener for me. Was it what I first expected going in? No. The real thing that I really appreciate is the mission moment. Actually getting the volunteers to come in and give what I call a testimony, like we do in church. And that is really an eye-opener, and shows that people out here really care about other people and helping other people to come over what obstacles that they may have in a time of need. From the blood services to the clothes drives to everything that takes place with the American Red Cross.
Well, I know that before we went on the air today, we were talking about you've been in a meeting, one meeting to another.
Yeah.
How do you find time to take time for the Red Cross?
Well, I've always said that if it's anything that I'm going to be involved in and my name is on it, certainly I'm going to make sure that I give 100% to it. Sometimes, you know, some things may overlap, but believe me, that I'm the type of person that I will take 100% and pride into what I'm doing, because, like I said, my name is on it. And so I am a hard worker. Sometimes I don't get any sleep. There's nothing for me to come on campus at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, not to see or be nosy and see what's going on with my staff, but to make sure that everybody is in place and everything is clicking the way it should be.
One of the challenges that our new chairman of the board, Kent Trimble, has issued to all of the board members is that sometime during their 3-year tenure of being on the board of directors that they go out to a fire, that they personally experience that. You've already done that. I mean,
yes.
That's really what brought you to the table
yes.
here today.
Yes.
But tell me, I know when you said you were driving down and you could see the black smoke, tell me what kind of emotions that evoked in you and really what you saw in the faces of those students.
The emotions was running extremely high. I'm at that point, I've got almost tears in my eyes, I want to make sure that that everybody get out that building safe, and then seeing the students across the street crying, holding each other, saying we've just lost everything that we've got possibly, and trying to comfort them, and also to let them know that those things are materialistic. We can't replace those things, even though there may be some personal items you really cherish, but a life we cannot. Being able to be passionate with those students and actually that they understand that I do relate to what you're going through and you're not out there alone. And by the American Red Cross coming in and helping us set up a place for those students to live, that was certainly great. So,
okay.
Yes.
Well, Carlos, I appreciate the passion that you have for the Red Cross. I appreciate what you do in serving on our board of directors, and I look forward to working with you for the next 3 years. And in that, and you're quite an advocate for us, and I just want to appreciate all the time you've given us.
I certainly appreciate it.
All right,
thank you.
We're going to be right back. Gina Joly, our account manager for preparedness and health and safety, is going to be with us to talk with us about preparedness, and so we'll be right back.
So my uncle calls and he says he's dizzy and he's losing his balance. I'm like, Unc, you want me to take you to a doctor? He's like, no, I'm gonna look up the symptoms. I said, your symptoms are you're dizzy and you're losing your balance. So he said, I can't get on the internet because my arm is numb. I said, well, use your good arm and dial 911. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love is showing symptoms of stroke, don't wait because it might be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain lost.
Lafayette, what are you doing?
I'm not gonna lie, definitely not easy.
Hey, whoa.
Just gotta get through the day.
How do you stop it?
Being used to doing something with a cigarette makes it hard doing it without one. If I can relearn to get through my workday without cigarettes, I can relearn anything without cigarettes.
Relearn life without cigarettes. Free at becomeanx.org. A new way to think about quitting.
Welcome back to Meet the Red Cross. I'm Dave Griffith, the Executive Director of the Heart of Missouri Chapter, and welcome to our second half of our show. And as promised, we have Gina Joly, and Gina is our Account Manager for Preparedness and Health and Safety, and she is out of our regional office in St. Louis. And Gina and I recently went on a call up in Moberly, and I really had a chance to listen to her talk about preparedness. And I thought about, when I was driving back, of who I could have to be my guest on this show, and she immediately came to mind. And so, Gina, I'm pleased to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, you've been with the American Red Cross for 9 years, is it? 8 years?
About 11.
11,
About
okay.
11 years,
all right.
yes. Yes,
And
that's
tell
right.
me about what you've done during that period of time.
Well, I actually started with the Red Cross as a water safety instructor. So I was about 5 months pregnant and wanted to do something. It was a great way to get off my feet, is just float in the water. So I became a water safety instructor. I've been a swimmer my whole life, so that made a lot of sense. And a few months later, I decided that I wanted to teach first aid and CPR. And about a year later, a position opened up where I could coordinate the instructor program at the Red Cross. Instructor program meaning companies sending people to become Red Cross instructors and go back and teach in their own in their own companies and organizations. So I did that for a long time. I continued to teach first aid and CPR. I teach people how to teach CPR and first aid, and then I spent about a year talking about Ready Rating, which hopefully we'll be talking about today, and which is a terrific program. And now I just sort of talk about all things and Ready Rating, as well as I set up classes and I talk to people about preparedness and how they can be more prepared.
Well, we mentioned that September is Preparedness Month.
Yes.
And I think that since we just mentioned Ready Rating, I think we'll start off with talking about that. You might tell our audience about what Ready Rating is and how that is part of the Red Cross now.
Yes, well, Ready Rating came about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And it really developed out of the idea that 60% of individuals are wholly unprepared for an emergency of any kind. And so our director of marketing got together with David Peacock, who at the time was president of Anheuser-Busch and also our board chair. And they talked about how do we fix this problem? How do we get people more prepared? And they determined that the best way to do that is through their businesses, organizations, and schools. So that's sort of where the seed for Ready Rating was sown. It's a program that we developed in St. Louis, and we piloted it there for a period of time, and then Anheuser-Busch gave us $2.1 million to pilot it in 8 other cities across the country, and it was just received so well. It was a terrific program. And then our national headquarters looked at it and said, hey, we love this, and we're going to take this on. So they rolled it out about a year ago.
Well, I know that Ready Rating and a lot of that program was geared towards businesses, and we talk about, and that's something that the president was talking about yesterday, about being resilient and having resilient communities and resilient companies as well. The importance of that, of those companies being ready. Let's talk just briefly about that as well.
So, well, of course, being ready allows companies to continue on once a disaster happens. So what we found is that 15 to 40% of businesses will actually fail following a big disaster. So in creating the Ready Rating program, we it's basically a 123-point assessment. So it's about 75 questions. And it allows people to really look at their hazard vulnerability, to do a hazard vulnerability assessment, to really determine what kinds of things can affect their businesses. I mean, we know here in Missouri, we've got ice storms and a potential earthquake and tornadoes and those kinds of things. For certain businesses, they might want to think about, are they near a highway? What happens if there's a chemical spill? So it really gives some guidelines through the program guide that goes with the program as to what kinds of things you should be looking at in your business. The next part of that is creating an emergency response plan. And I've talked to a lot of businesses that say, well, we already have a plan. And that's terrific. Most places do. This is a great opportunity. Doing this assessment is a great opportunity for them to see where the holes are in their plan. The next step in it is to really implement your plan, to take this assessment and to determine what kinds of things are you doing and what kinds of things aren't you doing as a business. And I think that in talking to businesses, that this is where they fail the most. And you can kind of understand why. Production is important, they're busy, they've got, they can't take the employees out of the workplace or whatever, but this is probably the most important thing. I heard a woman say one time that if you're not running your dress rehearsal, then nobody knows what to do, And businesses can really, there's preparedness months throughout the year, so they can really build this culture of preparedness throughout the year with, doing their fire drills in October for Fire Safety Week. They can do their earthquake drills in February for their earthquake awareness week. June is CPR AED Awareness Month, and that's a great time to maybe have a class for your employees so that they can respond to those medical emergencies. So these are all things, in taking this assessment, things that they can kind of start to see what they're doing right and what they need to still work on, and in order to just get better and better every year in their preparedness.
Well, I think you make a real good point. It's one thing that Carlos was talking about on the first half, is that they now do fire drills. After they had their fire there, they now do fire drills. And I know that when I first started to work with the Red Cross, in February we had earthquake awareness, and they send out an email to all of the executive directors that you need to do that drill in your office. And you know, at the time, it seemed kind of silly to go around the room and go around the office and say earthquake, and everybody get underneath their desk. But you know, in retrospect of looking at that, that's really the only way we are going to be prepared, is to go through those drills and to do those. And a lot of the exercise that we have with Ready Rating of making that list of knowing where your employees are. What are you going to do if all your employees have to stay overnight or stay for 3 or 4 days? Are you prepared for that? So these are the types of things that, you know, I've learned. You've been doing it for a while, but it's things that I've learned just over this short period of time. But we moved from businesses being ready to homes being ready, for families being ready. And there's a template that we've got now that we're getting out to a lot of families. You might talk about that just for a few minutes.
Well, the Red Cross has a wealth of information for families to be more prepared. And you know, if folks go to www.redcross.org, scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and they'll see a column that says Plan and Prepare, and there's links that you can click on to learn more about how you prepare your family, how do you prepare your home, what is your school doing, what do you need to know about what they're doing with regard to your children, of course, how to prepare your workplaces. With it being National Preparedness Month, there's also a link for that, and people can actually do a drawing of their emergency plan and send it in, and have a chance to win an iPod, so that's really cool. But there's just this wealth of information there that really helps families be more prepared. I'll tell you that in my family, we decided to run a fire drill one day, and so I blew a whistle and said fire, fire, and myself, my boys, we ran out of the house and down the street to a neighbor's house, and that's where we're going to congregate. And so we get back in the house, and I said, oh, fire in the front of the house this time. So we ran out the back of the house, and we came around, and just really practicing that drill so that they knew what to do. And there's some pitfalls, you know, they didn't have shoes on, it was cold outside, those kinds of things, and those are things that we need to think about when we're developing our plan. But Red Cross has checklists for all of those kinds of things, not only for fire, but what to do before, during, and after a tornado or an earthquake, or how you can prepare for the flu season, and that's coming up very soon. So there's just a variety of things that is listed there that is just so helpful for the families.
Well, I think having the plan is good. I think implementing the plan and practicing it is also a key to the success of it. But I know that we get so, we hear the tornado drills, and we hear the tornado sirens, and we hear them so often that we almost put them out of our minds until we have something that happens like in Joplin or in St. Louis or in Sedalia. And then when we hear them, we take them a lot more seriously. So those being prepared and knowing where you're going to go and what you're going to do once you get there, and making sure that all the kids and animals are all accounted for is key. One of the other things about being prepared is another part of your job, and that is CPR, AED, and first aid, and having that kind of training. You might just talk to us a little bit about the importance of those and what that does for those that are trained.
Well, of course, CPR and first aid, AED training is very, very important. I had the ability to coordinate the Lifesaver Awards for a couple years through the St. Louis area chapter. So I had a chance to really meet some of the victims and the lifesavers, and to see those reunions. There was actually a gentleman who came in from Nebraska with his family, staying at a hotel. Maryland Heights Police Department had just put AEDs in their police cars, and this gentleman in this hotel room collapsed from a sudden cardiac arrest. And Maryland Heights police officer showed up, brought the AED, was able to revive this man using the AED. It said shock advised, so he pushed a button and it shocked his heart and saved this man's life. And so we had a Lifesaver Award event in which we, of course, invited this family. And would you believe that he and all of his family members came all the way from Nebraska to be at this event and meet the man that saved his life? And the reunion in that room was just electric, right? Pun intended. You know, the police officer walked in and said, "Hey, you know, so good to see you. You look a lot better than you did last time I saw you." So it's just truly an amazing moment. So CPR, first aid, so important. That's something that you know, I'm the account manager for this particular territory. I can set up those classes for businesses. Individuals who want to sign up just for a class on their own can do so through 1-800-RED Cross. But so important, and you really have to think, you know, what's that life worth? And it's worth a ton. And I strongly encourage people to get certified in first aid and CPR.
Well, I think AEDs is something, and we use a lot of acronyms in the Red Cross, and so maybe we need is an automated external defibrillator, and I think that we've seen a lot of them in the malls, and we see them in public places a lot, and more businesses are getting them. But a story that I heard recently was at a church, and it's a fairly large church over in Columbia, and a man had a cardiac event there and passed out. They had an AED that was there in the church. They put it on him, they shocked him, and as the gurney was taking him out, he waved at all the crowd. So it's not just in the malls or in businesses, but it's in other areas that they're needed as well.
Absolutely. It's businesses, churches, schools. There's a 7th grader in St. Louis that collapsed from cardiac arrest. I mean, you just don't expect that to happen to a 7th grader. And in that particular school, the nurse there is a Red Cross instructor. So she trains her staff in first aid and CPR and AED. They've had AEDs at their school district for a long, long time. And sure enough, she brought it up, and this boy was in cardiac arrest. She applied the pads and shocked his heart. And as you can imagine, he's doing very, very well now. His dad talks to people about the importance of having AEDs in schools, and of course, businesses. I mean, we can expect about 350,000 cardiac arrests to happen each year. And you know, one of the things that we tell businesses is, well, do you have a fire extinguisher? And that's terrific. And then why wouldn't you have an AED, an automated external defibrillator? And because you just never know when that's going to happen.
Well, and the good news is that they've been out for a while, and they're a lot less expensive now than what they used to be. But what kind of a price can you put on a life? And so
exactly.
If someone out there would like to meet with Gina and to talk with her, you can give our office a call here in Jefferson City, and I'll be glad to give you that information. It's valuable. It's life-saving. And so I appreciate, Gina, I appreciate you being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And for giving us some really good information. And what's that number again that they can call if they want to get Ready Rating?
If they want to get Ready Rating, they can go to readyrating.org, okay. readyrating.org, and you can join. It's a cost-free program, so that's a cinch. And of course, if they have any questions, if they call you, and you can call me, I'd be happy to call them and talk to them about it. Okay?
Well, thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You bet.
Thank you for joining us on another edition of Meet the Red Cross. We'll be back again with you next month.